is Nomsa here at Nkosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today, I'm with Carol Ann Cooper and Shireen Lovegrove. How are you, ladies?
Great, thank you. And
Very
you?
well, thank you.
Good, good. It's not
Mhm.
very hot today. It's okay. So, and are you coming to Regatta, Shireen?
To the regatta?
Yeah.
Probably not. Because
And in
it's too many
Henley's
people, too many
Regatta.
people.
We're supposed to be happy, pleased when we have a beautiful event like this one, but when it comes to noise,
It's
uh-uh.
amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, people come from all over
Ah,
the world, but at night, the noise.
Yeah, partying. Yeah, yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's go to Carol Anne's topic today. She is always giving us challenge, guys, as you know, every week. She makes us feel uncomfortable. She challenges us with the topic. Today, topic is overthinking is a trust problem. Have you ever thought about something so much that instead of finding peace, you become more confused? Sometimes overthinking feels like a wisdom, but deep down it can be fear wearing mask of careful planning. Overthinking is always because you need more information. Sometimes it happens because you do not yet trust your own um, voice, your own judgment, or your own abilities to handle the outcome. So in this episode, we will talk about how fear keeps us stuck, how overthinking affects relationships, and how small decisions can help rebuild self-trust. So you do not need to have everything figured out before you move. Sometimes confidence grows after you take this step. Carol Ann, you chose this topic, and what was the motivation behind the topic, please?
okay, so um, we're actually coming into the third month of this series of topics that I've put together. And month one was about awareness. Month two was about relationships and conditioning. And now this month asks, now that you know more about yourself, what will you do with that awareness? And one of the biggest obstacles isn't lack of knowledge, it's overthinking. So last week, we explored something many of us never stop to question. The lessons we learned about love, relationships, and belonging. We talked about how many of those lessons weren't deliberately taught, they were absorbed. Some helped us, some protected us, and some may no longer actually serve us. But once we begin to unlearn those old beliefs, something interesting often happens. What we start seeing is new possibilities. We begin thinking differently. We recognize new choices. And yet, some people still don't move forward,
Hmm.
you know? And it's not because they don't know enough. And it's not because they haven't done enough personal development, but because they become caught in another pattern. They think and they think and then think some more. You know, so it's just got to think and keep thinking and waiting until they feel completely certain, waiting until every question has been answered, waiting until they feel ready. So today, what we're asking is overthinking really about needing more information? Or is it about finding it difficult to trust ourselves? It's about decision making, isn't it? So that's where it's come from. And, you know, overthinking isn't often less about intelligence, but more about trust. People overthink because they don't fully trust. their judgment, their intuition, their decisions, even their resilience. If things don't go to plan, it's like, what am I going to do? This doesn't work out. So many people aren't looking for more answers. They're looking for more certainty. So that's where that comes from. So there is a few questions I'm going to ask in a bit, but it's like, what were your thoughts, Shireen, when you saw this, as we're now moving into this aspects of our topics?
Yeah, I love this kind of topic, as I wrote. What a lovely subject. I love it. It's my favorite because one of the things that really is important for me is, how do we learn to listen to our body? How do we learn to listen to ourselves? And a lot of the time, what often happens is we misunderstand reaction for understanding what really is happening within the body, right? So we'll go, I should have listened to this, and I should have listened to that, and I should have done this and should have done that. And sometimes you've got it right, and sometimes you've got it wrong. Some people, there's this real kind of thing that that if you always listen to your gut, you're going to always get the truth. But if your gut is not telling you the truth because it's in reaction, then that reaction is not the most helpful thing. But the one thing that we have done as thinking beings is learn to overthink, because we try and put ourselves in the thought space. And that means we often disconnect from our feeling space. And we disconnect, and we don't actually connect these two pathways so that we get the full sense, right? That full sense of self, that full sense of a truth. And so what often happens is we default back into thinking. And, we have a really, such an important sense called interoception. And interoception is that ability to have a feeling, go inside, say, oh, that's what this is about, really have a conversation with ourselves, and come into a space where we feel good, right? And then we can act from that space, from a positive space. And even if the outcome never doesn't work out in the way we want it, we're still congruent with the decision we make. And so I think what really comes into play is, what is it that makes us go into the thinking role so quickly rather than into the listening role? We don't get taught to listen to our bodies first and foremost, right? Very seldom we get told to ignore it. And the reason is because it is something that's kind of magical. To listen to our soul, to listen to our senses, it's very hard to research it. It's much easier to research what we see you doing. It's much easier to research if we can say these two things, this is an as and a not or a is. It's very easy if we're in the dual world. But if we're in a world that's almost unseen, it's often overlooked. And so that part of intuition, which is very much a feminine source, right? Generally, because it's a feeling source and often associated more with women, gets discounted. And often women discount this for themselves now because they've moved into more of a world where we're trying to look at external validation rather than our own validation of what we know to be true. And so, yeah, it's such an important topic for me, because I know that particularly when we're incredibly stressed, we switch off to our body sensations. We switch off to this interoception, which means we start to overthink because we can't feel the truth, right? And so we go into the spiral, and we keep going, keep self-doubting ourselves, keep worrying, keep trying to if you think about someone with OCD, and I know when I'm really stressed, I lock my front door. And then I forget, and I go back, have I locked my door? I walked down the road and, oh, I've got to go back and lock my door, right? And when I have that first thought, that first compulsion to go back, I know now that's my stress response, right? And I go, okay, let me stop for a minute. Is my handbag shut? I go through a series of steps and I don't go back. I do my best not to go back, because I know if I go back, I'm now in that old cycle, and it's going to take me longer to trust myself again. So it's really something that is very important. So I understand what it's like, right? To even doubt yourself or your memory, or even doubt your memory, because I know my memory is absolutely fine, but oh no, when that's there, that feeling is so strong. And I think that this is really so important for people to understand. That's why we overthink, because when the anxiety is going, we cannot trust ourselves. It's very, very difficult. We can't get enough information from our body to give us that level of safety. What's your thoughts there, Nomsa?
I like what you both said. I think overthinking is just a big problem to people. And like you said, Shireen, when you're overstressed, me, I think when I'm overstressed, I just want to go to sleep.
You want to stop thinking.
I want to stop thinking. When I'm overstressed, I normally come and sit in front of um my computer, and I'm like thinking, I'm like, God, this is the problem, and I'm giving it to God, and I'm giving it to God. I'm like, can you solve it? But I try to uh I used to overthink it, but when I realized that actually how does the mind works, actually it was Satan who made me realize, and I was, no, he plays with people's mind, because sometimes he can come as a sky. So, and I was like, no, he plays, because like I've learned to focus, like, like ear listening, so I can listen. So I started putting, you can put Vaseline. So I started putting Vaseline to see different energy, how my energy work. So when I put Vaseline, I'm blocking the energy that comes in. When I start overthinking, I'm like, I don't do this overthinking. What's going on? So I put Vaseline and then it goes. So I realize that actually plays with people's mind. So every time is from that moment, I think that was before lockdown when I realized, from that moment, when I have a problem, Shireen, I hand it over to God. And I know that in my heart, even if I overthink or I think whatever, the only thing that I can stress myself, I can do this, but tomorrow the problem will be solved. And then I'll be going to the doctor and say, doctor, give me some pills to cope. So I don't do that. Nomsa goes to sleep when she feels tired. It means I'm thinking. If I feel that there's something heavy that I'm carrying, I just have to say I just sit on the sofa and say, God, I'm gonna go to sleep while you solve this problem. Um, or I like Carol Ann as well. She said, unlearning negative beliefs. Most people are looking for what was it? Sanctity.
Certainty.
Certainty, yeah. To look for
Certainty, yeah.
certainty, yeah.
But the truth is, whatever you want to do in life, whether it's a relationship, it's a gamble. The person may come into your life, they look so perfect, they speak the words, they like they tell you things, like they make you feel like no one has ever made you feel. So if it feels right, that moment, you go for it, but you have to look at the red flags and things like that, but without overthinking. If you guys can come and do matchmaking, oh my goodness. Somebody they want to go on date. Sometimes I get messages on Facebook with people going on date, and they tell you this person we set up a date. I'm like, when? They're going on date on Saturday. They set up a date maybe Wednesday or maybe before or the other weekend, and then they say next weekend we're gonna go on date. So And then the guy, they set up everything. This is where we're gonna meet at this time. And then whether the woman of the man now is texting Nomsa, oh, since we set up the date, this guy has not contacted me or anything. And I'm thinking, the guy is in front of the mirror practicing what he's gonna say to you, because there is nothing to say at this minute. When you introduce yourself to somebody and you talk, you're like, I like you, I want to get to know you. And the next thing, the challenge now is, wow, is this person going to like me? So the guy is in front of the mirror practicing his talk for 5 days. And then on Friday or Thursday, he's going to text and say, yeah, we're still up. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to see you. But the other person is overthinking. Why is he not texting me? Why? I'm like, there's nothing to say. Honestly, there is nothing to say. If I've met someone, but then they are interested in me, now I have to think about, what am I going to wear? What am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? Who's going to look after this? Who's going to look after this? But some people, they overthink things. Me, I just go easy with myself. I've learned the easy way, Caroline and Shireen, just to go easy on Nomsa. Like when I was fasting, everybody was going ooh ha with my fast. And you guys were so calm. But the question I was asking myself is, what's all this hoo ha? Everything you do in life, there's a risk.
Mm.
Whatever you do, there is a risk. And I was like, I am doing this, I've taken this journey, and everybody's starting worrying. And I'm like, do you know the people that are not Christian, how many days they fast? I listened to the other guy, he said 300 days, no eating. I was like, what? I can't do that. Me, just 40. Everyone is going, wow. 300 days. And I was like, don't do that. The guy was diagnosed with something, and he went on fast for 300 days until the sickness came out of his body. That's the day he stopped. And I was like, I wish I had a gift to do that, but I don't. 40 days, that's enough.
And you did it. And you did it. You decided what would work for you. And this is where there's a difference between careful thinking and overthinking. Careful thinking actually helps you move towards a decision. You ask yourself, what do I need to know to make a good decision? And so you gather the information that you need, you weigh up the options, and then you take the action. Whereas overthinking, you're asking those, what if, without ever, feeling ready to make a decision. It just holds you in a loop, and you keep circling around a decision, and you're repeatedly analyzing the same information. You're searching for certainty, and it delays and actually can prevent you taking action. You're just going round and round in circles. So there is a difference. And what I'm hearing, when you decided to do the water or do the fasting, you chose how many days you wanted to do it. You heard that what someone else had done and decided, well, no, that's too much for me. You did 40 days, you chose, you stuck to it. And as you say, unless you actually go for it, you don't know what's going to happen, because you're not gone through it. Your body hasn't gone through it. Your mindset hasn't gone through it. Someone else having gone through it, it's got a different mindset, got a different body, will react differently. And so you were able to do some careful thinking and actually make the decision and go for it. And you know, I love what you said, Noms, about everything in life is a gamble. Everything is a risk
Yeah,
because you don't know what's going to happen.
no
And
guarantees.
so it's just making a decision and going for it. Having, yeah, looked up some information, but at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen. It is a risk. And I love what you were saying, Shireen, about that intersection about going in and trusting your body. Overthinking is in the head. You're in your head. You're just constantly thinking. You're not in your body. You're completely, as you said, disconnected. When you can just drop into your body, into your heart, and really feel into what is your body saying, you have a better chance of making a decision that actually works for you and has less repercussions. Does it mean that you should, if you can't do that, you shouldn't, stay in the overthinking? No, just have a go at it, because that's when you get the feedback. And I love what Eleanor Roosevelt said: in any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing. I just thought, wow, isn't that beautiful? The worst thing you can do is nothing. So recognize, there are the two different types of thinking, and recognize whether you are in your head and what will it take for you to drop down into your body to reconnect. And as you were saying, Shireen, and I really understand that. Yes, you go out, you think, oh, have I shut the door? And you're thinking and thinking, and it's like, oh, you have to go back and check. It's about, as you said, making yourself present at that moment, actually consciously saying, yes, here, I've locked the door. So you're conscious with it. Yes, my purse is in my bag. And so all of those things that you worry about when you're gone, it's because you're not conscious. You're somewhere else. You're just doing something on autopilot, and therefore you're not conscious of having done it. It's making yourself conscious. So yes, I've done that myself. I've got, oh, and I've had to go back. And then so now I make myself, lock the door, boom, boom, shut it properly. And so that I'm conscious when I walk away. And you can have that gives you the certainty, that gives you that, okay, you can move forward and leave it behind. And one of the things you said about, Nomsa, you said about Satan plays with people's thinking, and that you actually put Vaseline in your ear. Actually massaging around your ear. Okay, you put the Vaseline in, but the actual action of massaging around your ear helps you to have more clear thinking. It helps you to hear your own thinking. You have clearer listening of what is being said outside as well. So you've got more discernment. And that is actually a brain gym activity called thinking caps, which is, I think I've done with you before, about just massaging around the ears. So you're doing a little bit of both there, because you're putting in the Vaseline, which is obviously doing something, but by putting it in, you're massaging your ears as well. So it's some powerful things there.
Yeah.
Because you then notice that your thinking got clearer. You're able to shut off those satanic thoughts, for want of a better phrase, because that's what they were, Yeah. And it is very much so.
Yeah, the ears are an amazing organ, aren't they? One of the things, and you did, and it was great that you reminded me, because I always think about, what do I do with the dog, right? I will often sit with the dog and I will really rub their ears, and
Have you
they
got a
just
dog,
look at you,
Shireen?
and you watch their eyes go glazed.
Have you got a dog?
I don't, but I grew up with dogs.
Okay.
And if I see a dog and I'm with them, I just rub their ears, because if say it's being a little bit naughty or whatever, rub their ears. I mean, not hard, but firmly enough that the senses get triggered. And also the sound, right? The sound that sound that happens in the ears creates something which is like white noise. And so it interrupts patterns, right? And the other thing is, and you may not know about, there's something called tonic immobility, which is a form of immobility. The man that discovered this was he was actually working with white sharks, and he would rub the sharks on the nose or in some other spot, and these sharks would just go paralyzed. They would be immobile, right? It almost like, and it was because their body was being flushed with endorphins, flushed with euphoric feelings, and they just loved it so much that they couldn't move. And this is a little what happens with the ears, because the ears is one of these organs that actually is really filled with sensors that actually activate our endorphins. So it actually puts us in a much better feel-good state. And of course, when we feel good, we hear differently. We're more likely to hear positive rather than negative. Or we're more likely to not hear anything. It clouds us in that white noise. So I'm great you brought it up, and it just made me think of my dogs in the past and what I do now. But also when I massage little babies, I just their ears, and they just kind of and they sort of chill out rather nicely. So it's a very useful thing to help interrupt a pattern. Um, and that's kind of really important, because I think we're starting to hear here with this overthinking is really this is about something's happening that's causing us to feel outside ourself, or not our normal happy self, right? So we normally find that when we're overthinking, it's because we're anxious. In our body, we feel like we're not in control. We're disconnected. We often feel that, things like the world is heavy, or I have to be rushed. I feel unsupported, those kind of things. I'm grasping for straws. These are some of the typical kinds of wording or ways of which we might actually explain to ourselves, explain to others what we might be feeling. And it's useful to actually name them. It's useful to name those feelings so that we can bring it and ground it in a different way. When thoughts are just up in the air all the time, we can't do anything with them, but we can do something when we give it a name. When we say, "Oh yes, I'm anxious about this. This is what's happening," because it allows us to see the next pathway, the next where the decision might need to go on how to support ourselves and how to change that. And then, by bringing it down, which is really quite interesting, it actually brings us into center, because it brings us into presence, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And presence is a wonderful word, because when we're present, we get the gift, we get the presence of our present. And that's ultimately everything that we need. We need to be present with any moment that's happening. So yeah, you're quite right. When I go out the door and I've been a bit anxious and a bit worried, I'm normally thinking about many things I have to do. So everything's now, lots of our processes are all automatic. So we don't think about those actions, right? And so therefore we don't have we really don't have a memory of it, because we haven't logged it in that moment. And sometimes you need other things to remind you or to take you back to those moments. And sometimes you may not remember, but if you have a thing like I have if my handbag is shut, I know I take the keys out always before I go out. So I know that if it's locked, absolutely, my door is shut. So these are the little things, little tricks that I've done for myself that allow me to just kind of center myself. Okay, I'm here. And when I do that, then I feel, oh, okay, I can move forward. And I may not forget it straight away, but I will forget, or I will at least be able to put it in the back of my mind, so that when I come home, I find that my door's been locked. So, but it allows me to move forward rather than stay stuck in time and in the trauma of what it is. So I think it's a very important thing. And more important is kind of like, I think, is understanding what it feels like to be in that center, right? In that space of when we feel grounded, when we feel, and connected, what does that give us? Well, it gives us possibility. And I love that Nomsa said, everything is a risk, everything's a gamble. But somewhere along the line, you still have, I hand it over to God. There's a certainty, right? So although there's a gamble, there's still certainty. It's these two juxtapositions. We still have certainty, even though we don't know what the future is going to hold. We have certainty about ourselves in this moment. And I think when we allow ourselves to recognize what is it that we really need to be certain about, right? That can help us. Did I make this choice of my own volition? Is really important. If I make this choice, do I accept that choice? Do I accept the consequence that comes from that? Can I be hopeful in what I've done? Am I inspired? All of these kinds of words would be the different kinds of words that would start to we would self-generate if we're in a place where we're actually listening to our inner self, our place where we can trust ourselves. Yeah. Namsa, how does that feel?
I just like when you said understanding what it feels like to be in that center of that thing that makes you overthinking. And also you said though, when you feel like the world is heavy, communicate whatever your feelings, and when you feel unsupported, communicate your feelings. And for me, what I have had to do is, when you sit there, you hear people saying, oh, Nomsa, I'm here for you. Some people lie, by the way. They say they're here for you. They're not really here for you. They want you to tell them what they want to hear, but they don't really want you to, like Shirini, you said, if the world is heavy, just say, I just need more support. I feel like I feel unsupported. Communicate what you are feeling. But some people don't want to hear those words. They tell you that they are here for you, but they don't want. They want you to lie and say, yeah, I'm okay. I'm good, Shirin. You say, how are you, Nomsa? I'm good. Even when the road is tough or it's unsafe, like I'm like wondering and worrying about things, instead of communicate, people don't like that they lie. And I always say to my friends, because I have really, really good friends, but I had to get rid of those that they just want you to dress up and show a different world, that the world is full of joy, is full of this, is perfect. So let's take picture and eat food and we all lovely each other, do some fake love. I don't do that part. But I'm very lucky I've got good friends and I've got you guys. So I think, and I love Carol Ann, this one word, is it Elena? The worst thing you can do is nothing.
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Eleanor
Nothing.
Roosevelt, yeah. Yeah.
Nothing. I just love her. And I think it's very, very important to recognize that overthinking is often a fear, there's fear in it. Sometimes we can call it I'm being careful, or deep down knowing that is fear. Fear of failing, fear of being judged by people, fear of choosing wrong, or fear of losing something important. That's why for me, I say life is a gamble and is a puzzle. Sometimes we might get it wrong. Does it mean we have to fear? No. It means we are human. We're not meant to be perfect. Like Carol Ann, you said, sometimes we want to know what is going on. We want that reassurance that whatever we do is going to go perfect, but that's not how it works. That is Job. God is Job. God knows everything. But us, we don't. Sometimes I make a decision with my business not knowing what the tomorrow is going to look like. The only thing I have to do is just go to God and say, God, this is what I'm doing. If it's not right, can you give me a sign or provoke something so that I will know that what I'm doing is not right? Even with whatever I do, even when I began like in my 40-day fast, I had to go to the altar and say, God, what this is what needs to be done, but if it's the wrong way, say no. But if you support this, hold my hand. And I saw God's hand through everything. And I was telling you guys that when I look at the food, I was like, stagnating my life. But I was enjoying the journey. I was just enjoying that part of the moment. But imagine if doing nothing. Somehow, guys, for me personally, I always say to people, you would never know until you do something. And that's why Nomsa closes her eyes. I'm praying, God. I'm giving everything. I'm closing my eyes and I'm making a decision. And I don't know where I'm going, but God knows. If it's not right, He will stop that decision. I'm okay with that. But for me, don't analyze. If you find a good man, you don't analyze it. It's a good man. Even the good ones, sometimes the relationship comes with problems. Find a good woman. Don't analyze it as long things are aligned. You want to start a business, don't make up stories in your heart that am I gonna have money, or people are going to judge me, or people. You don't make a decision. Like the woman says, the worst thing you can do is doing nothing. People will always talk. You do something, they'll always judge you. You do something, they will always. I used to see Satan, honestly, he will control someone to take me for coffee. And I'm sitting there, people are giving me pep talk, and the angel of God is there. And I'm sitting. And Satan goes, you witness's daughter, you are wicked. Why don't you just tell people off that is me that is doing this? I'm sitting there, I'm keeping my cool down, and I'm thinking, now I'm sitting there, Carol Ann and Sherini. I'm now looking at people's behavior. Now people are giving me advice. They're thinking they're giving me the right advice, and I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, this is so sad. You have to make action. I'm like, you have to take action. And I'm like, I've made a decision to create the talk show. There's nothing wrong with the talk show that people have to report me. But that is causing fear. I could easily have had the fear in my heart and say, I'm not going to do it anymore. But you continue doing your journey, even when people judge you. You have to keep going. Even when life does not make sense, when you look at things in life, it does not make sense. There were times where I started my business, it cost me lots of money, or times where I go to the fridge, I put money in the business, and there's no food in the fridge, and I'm thinking, what am I gonna do today? I'm like, Nomsa is going on fasting. And then I go to my bank account. Someone is taking money into my bank account. I go to the bank and I'm there, like the password we're using. I'm thinking, what is Nomsa going to do today? Nomsa is going on fasting. And tomorrow God to solve the problems. So it's life. Over to you, Carol Ann.
It's life. It certainly is.
Yep.
And I love what you said about knowing what will happen next. It's not how it works. If we were meant to know, we would know. But I mean, there is that great quote, isn't there? Hindsight is such a great thing. Hindsight is brilliant. So if you were meant to know before, you would know. So there is that trust. And yes, God does know. There is something in the universe that knows, and there is that support out there. And relationships come with problems, all relationships, work colleagues, friends, family, and your intimate relationships. They all come with some form of problem, something that is there for you to learn from and grow from. Because if there wasn't, it would just be stagnation. There's nothing to learn from. So there's always going to be something. And sometimes it's something big, because perhaps you haven't listened to the little things. It always comes nice and quietly at first. So it is, again, listening. And listening to your body is the key, because your body does tell you the little discomfort, the little bit of something in there that goes, but we ignore it because we're in our head or we're listening to other people. Because overthinking is very often a part of that is you're constantly asking for other people's opinions. You're seeking out there for the answers when the answers are actually inside. You're replaying conversations afterwards. And I know I often, I used to do that. I don't do it. I realize I don't do it like I used to. I still do a little bit, but nowhere near. But it was always replaying a conversation in my head afterwards and going, well, I should have said that, I should have said that. But to heaven's sake, the conversation's been and gone. What's the point? But again, it's in your head. And then before you take any action, you're imagining every possible outcome. And I used to do that before I would make a phone call, or before I'd have a conversation. I'd be in my head thinking, well, if they say that, and if they say that, and I'd say that, and I'd be trying to think how the conversation was going to go. So I never actually got on the phone. I hated going on the phone. Whereas now I can pick up a phone and allow the conversation to go wherever it wants. I know what it is I'm wanting out of the conversation, or maybe it's just a conversation that is just it'll go wherever it goes anyway. But I don't overthink now like I used to before I pick up the phone, because then I just never picked up the phone. And I remember when I got my one of my first jobs after I left college, I told my boss I hate making phone calls, and so he kept making me make phone calls or answer the phone to try and help me with that. And it helped a bit, but I've realized now it was the overthinking. I needed to know what I had to say, what they were going to say, and then what I would say. Well, you just listen. You just be present, and then be in yourself, in your body, and feel into the conversation and allow whatever needs to be said. And if you need time just to think about what's been said, because sometimes I need that bit of time, and I think that's where I would, I can't think quick enough. Well, now I'm happy to just pause the conversation and say, well, I need to think about that. There's a word there that doesn't quite resonate with me, or it's not working. And I will question and actually get to a point where I think, I understand what they're talking about or they're asking, and then allow my answer to come up. And actually, it's been really nice, because more of late, people have said and commented on how I think before I actually speak, and actually they feel the truth of what I'm saying has got a deeper gravity to it than someone that just replies and it's from their head. And I think, I hadn't thought of it like that. I hadn't realized how it would come over. So I stop making myself wrong or feeling wrong, because I need that time to find my words, and to find the words to, that explains what it is I want to say. So those are some of the ways that overthinking shows up. But underneath that, as you were saying, Namsa, there is something deeper than that. Is the fear of making mistakes. There's the fear of judgment. There's perfectionism. Am I going to get it right? That's a huge driver. And there's always been a huge driver for me. But again, disappointments, previous disappointments will play with you. Well, what if I'm, it's not going to happen again? But also there's that lack of self-trust. So again, it's, you were saying about God knows, it's putting it up there and trusting, taking the action. And it's about trust. And so if you don't, that's where the lack of trust comes in. Many people don't fear making the wrong decision. They fear not being able to cope if it's the wrong decision. Now, that's
The
interesting.
wrong outcome, yeah.
Yes.
For the decision.
Or the wrong one. If it's the wrong one. So whatever happens, it's like, it's the fear of not being able to cope. And I thought, yeah. So it's not just about, fear of making wrong decisions. It's that, will I cope? If it's wrong, what will happen? Will I be able to come back from it? Well, actually, if you sit with, if it does turn out to be the wrong one and it hasn't worked out comfortably, it's quite an uncomfortable result that you get, then sit with it. And this is where the learning is, and that you can grow from. And it's being able to do that. And then that's where the trust comes in, and you can then go deeper in yourself and begin to sort of take that time to do careful thinking rather than overthinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I think that your last statement, it reminds me of just how important that part of the action part of what it all involves. So when we have a belief, or when we think, oh, I can't get, I do a lot of EMDR, which is eye movement and desensitizing. And one of the things is they want the fear to go away. But as you said, it's what is going to happen as a consequence of that, of relieving myself of that fear. If that fear goes away, right? How am I going to cope? Is one of the big things. And so one of the big statements that I have to do is really find what is the wording that they need for themselves that will allow them to still move forward. So I use something very often. I'll say, even though this is happening and I feel absolutely out of control, I can still trust myself anyway, or I can still do this anyway. And just having a statement that allows us to address one part of the thing that's uncopable and whatever, we can bring other stuff in that can sit alongside it so that it's not so separate, and we eventually are able to sandwich it down so that people can truly see that actually it really is something that they can manage, even if that's happening, right? So it's kind of like, even if there's a hurricane going on, we can still keep safe. We can still find a place to go and be safe. We can still make sure we have enough food in the house, or we've gone down to the basement. So these are the things that we can do, so that when the worry happens, it's always about the future, right? So what can we do to ensure the safety for when this future happens? So those are the kinds of things that can be really useful, and that's where the brain comes in as a useful consideration, right? And we're not going round and round and round, running away from the problem, but we're actually working towards that if it should happen. Most of the time, things work out, right?
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, as we said, life's a gamble, but if we take time to just really listen to what the fear is trying to tell us. What is it trying to get us to do? Right? It's never trying to get us to run away, because it's normally something we've anticipated. What it's trying to tell us is, how will we cope in that state? How will we cope when this happens? So if you're going to go on stage, one of the things I laughed when Nomsa said, oh, with the phone calls. Oh yeah, she's been sitting there in front of in front of the mirror, trying desperately hard to come up with things. Or one of the priming would be, okay, so you're going to make this appointment. What do you need to know about this person might be very busy? So how do we reframe it so that she doesn't get panic? Maybe even it's in writing the text. Okay, I'll take it that, on Sunday or Saturday, you will text me before we meet at this time. So you set up times where you're not sitting in the wondering, but that you're actually creating stuff with purpose, right? With a decision. And that means that you don't have to think about it until Saturday, right? You don't have to think, oh, he hasn't phoned me if you've made an appointment Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, right? Because you've actually made the agreement the contact is going to be on Saturday. So it's about, what do you need? What do you need to help you manage the uncertainty? And in the same way, it's kind of like, well, normally my understanding is also, when I give it over to God, or I give it over to a higher power in some way, what I do is I say, well, this is what I can do. This is what I need to do right now. And this is what you can do. Right? Because when we do that, we allow ourselves to receive in a different way. And I think often what happens when we're uncertain and we're anxious is we can't receive. We can't receive information. We can't hear, so we can't receive our own wisdom, right?
Yeah.
And I always think, and there's something that really comes down to something that you said, Carol Ann, is the gravity of the situation. When we are confident in ourselves, we talk differently from when we're anxious. When we're anxious, it sits up here. When we're down here and we're talking, like you're saying, I don't understand a word, so I slow myself down, right? I ask the question, or I have a conversation where I have no agenda. I go in, what's the purpose? I'm going to speak to this person. I'm speaking to this person because I really care about them. No matter what comes up, I care about them. If I focus on keeping that in my heart, then the conversation's going to flow, because I'm going to talk at a resonance that's lower. They're going to hear that resonance. And I think you've done positive intelligence, but we have a data channel, and we have another channel called the emotional channel. We respond to the emotional channel more than the data channel. So whatever you say in the how you say it is the key. And I think that's the bit that you kind of really, your inner wisdom is kicked into, which is about, I don't really know, but I don't have to rush the conversation. I can just take my time and have the conversation in the presence. And so you've said they say there's more of a brevity and a gravity to what you're saying now, because now you're sitting in it and congruent with it, and you're not trying to just rattle it off. You're trying to, you want the impact of each word to have its full impact in the way it needs to be, right? So it has a different resonance, a different frequency. And I suppose one of the conversations I was thinking earlier on today, just very briefly, is that, our body has the innate capacity to heal if we give it the right circumstances to heal. Every relationship has the capacity to heal if we give it the right circumstances. We don't heal. The body knows how to heal. It's got a prime directive, which we can believe is our source, our spirit, our soul, our God-given, right? All of those actually happen outside our awareness. And it's up to us to connect to that so that we can gain the wisdom and the awareness that comes with it. Right. So someone wrote something about kicking their toe, and I said to them, well, great that you left your retreat. But what was your toe really telling you? What's the toe saying? Given toes are about balance, and they're about moving forward, depending on which foot it is. Ask the questions around that. That gives you so much information, and actually it makes you less anxious. It makes you more open to receiving the healing, whatever that healing is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've probably said what I needed to say there.
Yeah.
How about you? I don't want to take up too much time. So
I love that. I love when Carol Ann said some times ago, you go into a conversation with no agenda. I love that. I think that is a very, very powerful statement, and also it helps you to help the other person, and it helps you to help yourself as well. And I really, really love that. And I like, Shireen, what you said. You said work towards the problem. I think it's really, really important. I always say to people, when you are going through something, look at what you are going through. When that thing start affecting your relationship, is your relationship really the problem, or the problem is that I think I started this mindset when I was reading during lockdown that the abusive in relationship went up during lockdown. So I said to myself, where do these people actually find the time to abuse their wives, their husband? Because me, my mindset, I'm looking at everybody when I wake up, like everybody's alive. Me, my mindset is like into gratitude because um this pandemic is actually wiping people out and people are losing lives. And I'm thinking, why would people think that, okay, they abuse each other, go to separate rooms and stuff like us? Children will go to that room, I go to that room, or sometimes I even go outside to the garage, and make sure that I do my own things. I think there were times where I was broadcasting there, so I have my me time on my own without children disturbing me because I'm not used to them being in the house. But there's the mindset. I think you have to shift your mindset and also know that things are going to work out just fine. Because if you overthink things, there will be endless overthinking that keeps you trapped in that situation. What if trust help? Like, what if now? What now? Tomorrow? The goal is not for you to feel fear, but to stop letting fear lead your life. And I think that is important to actually understand that life is a journey, and every step that we take, everything that comes into our ears, into our eyes, there's a lesson that we learn. Or every disappointment, every rejection, we learn something from it. Life is not perfect, and for people to keep analyzing and analyzing, you just have to, like I said, me, sometimes I sit in front of the computer. There were times where I kept like having meetings from LinkedIn, wanting people to actually do SEO. And I will ask questions, and people will not give me the questions that I need, but the price was so high. And then I said, God, why? Because if someone is telling me something that they've learned from the book, I can tell. So then I ended up saying, God, why can't you just teach me SEO so I can do it? So I decided to go on strike. 5 days in front of the computer, I'll do my work. 4 p.m. not doing nothing until God responded. And I was like, okay, take the mouse. And I started learning doing SEO. That's how I learned. I had to go and strike first because Carol Annie, I couldn't understand. I would sit there asking someone questions, this, and I will not get the answer that I need. But then I did some research, because first you have to do some research. For me, I had to do research with all the social media to understand how it works. So now I needed to employ someone to work on my YouTube channel, and some telling me porcupines. So I was like, okay, God, now I need to do SEO. But how do I do it? Guess what? SEO, it takes Carol, and just for one video, it takes about maybe less than 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And they tell you £100 per video. And I'm thinking, maybe $50 I can understand. Like £100, that's too much. Someone said to me, to create my music video, £500, just one song. So I had to get God on board. God, teach me how to do this, because I'm sitting there analyzing things. I'm like, £500 for one song. What if I need 5 songs? That's too much money. So I'm thinking, and guess what? It's actually fun to create music. It's really, really fun. I can go to ChatGTP and say, can we give me some brainstorm and stuff? And we just brainstorm together, come out with the song, but creating the actually beat of the music, I got to do it on my own, because ChatGTP is just something else. It takes time, but it's fun. So I think it's those things where you have to understand life is life. If you don't do it yourself, no one will do it. If you don't say yes when you are meant to say yes, no one will do it. People are there for two things, guys: to talk you out of what you are meant to do, or to support you. It's 16 minutes past, ladies. That was my words of encouragement, guys.
Okay.
Go for what you need to do. If you
Yeah.
make a mistake, that's God's job to actually hold our hands.
And what you said, what came out from what you were saying is have fun with it. It's about having
Yeah.
fun, not getting
Yeah.
too serious. And overthinking is a bit serious, you know, and often overthinking often feels productive, but it actually rarely creates progress. I think that's what we've heard through this conversation, and it certainly isn't fun. So have fun. So I just like to leave something that actually also says something else we've been saying. Overthinking isn't always a search for the right answer. Sometimes it's a search for certainty that life was never meant to provide. And I think that's what conclusion we've come to as well as we were talking. So truth isn't built by waiting until you feel confident. It's built by taking small actions and discovering that you can handle more than you think. Next week, we'll explore why confidence isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. Mm.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
The journey continues.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay.
I like this Carol Ann. Honestly, I like Carol Ann's character. She just decided to go in the Holy Ghost fire with topics.
Ah,
It's, it's,
it's
it's,
lovely.
it's awesome.
Mm,
Me and Shireen, we just enjoying your present, Carol Ann. It's just a joy.
good.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
glad. That's the main thing. As long as you enjoy it,
guys.
that's what it's about. So yeah, we're way over time.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
guys, if
Mhm.
you are watching us, you can go on YouTube and subscribe to Facebook, join the group Unique Billionaire Mindset and Gossip Talk Shows. And if you want Carol Ann to coach you, please do go to the website, is hopespringeternally.com, and sign up, or if you want Shireen to coach you, if you want to contact them, you can always ring the office, or you can just contact me on social media. They are always on my speed dial, by the way. So if you want me as your coach, you can just contact me. And God bless you guys and live with grace.